Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook, on the internet, anywhere where you're watching this. My name is Kevin Smith, and I am the Technology Committee Chairman at Bryn Mawr Community Church. And we have something that I think you'll find informative and, very entertaining, and I think you'll really enjoy it. We have one of our own members, the Judge Marianne Jackson, and we're going to ask her, since we have a lot of legal things and kind of legal issues that are kind of in the news right now. We're going to ask her to explain some of these things to the congregation so that we'll all have a better understanding of kind of what's going on. And I think it'll be great. So you ready, Judge Jackson?
I am.
Very good. So the first thing I wanted to ask about is something that we've seen in the news, which is the Illinois Fair Tax Amendment. For someone hasn't seen the news, hasn't immersed themselves in, a lot of local or statewide news, explain what the Illinois Fair Tax Amendment is.
Okay. This is an amendment that will give the state legislature the ability to do a graduated tax. The Illinois Constitution, when it was amended in 1970, I believe, required a flat tax structure, which is 4.59 or 4.95, something like that, percent.
Okay.
And everybody pays the same tax rate. So if you're somebody making $19,000 a year, you pay 4 point whatever it is. If you're somebody that's made $3 million last year, you pay the same tax rate. So what the Fair Tax Amendment is seeking to do is to be able to charge a higher rate for those people making more than $400,000 a year.
Okay. So for the average person living in South Shore, the average person living in Chicago, the average person living anywhere in Illinois, kind of what would be the big change for someone like me or someone like a regular person as a result if this amendment were to pass?
As envisioned, unless you made $400,000 a year, you would not wind up paying any additional tax over and above what you're paying right now. Okay. Now, of course, if your salary or your income increases, then you pay more. But assuming it would stay the same as the taxes envisioned, it wouldn't cost you any more.
Okay.
Get to $400,000, it becomes a whole different ballgame.
Well, I believe you me, I am below $400,000, but
guess what?
I'm sorry?
I said me too.
I appreciate that explanation. So I guess my question would be then, Judge Jackson, if I've seen a lot of ads on television with, regular people with small businesses, Joe's Painters and Amy's Coffee Shop, saying that if this tax passes, if this amendment passes, that my taxes might go up and that Illinois can't be trusted because they'll raise taxes. Are those ads truthful? Should we believe those ads?
Look, nobody wants to pay more money. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. I understand that. As I understand it, this is what their concern is. They say that you are opening the door to the legislature being able to increase everybody's taxes. The fact of the matter is that the legislature does not have to change the tax structure to charge everybody, to increase everybody's taxes. They don't. It is necessary in order to go to this graduated tax, and I think I looked it up. and I don't have it right off the top of my head, but I think the top rate under this graduated thing would be 7-point-something% for like billionaires.
Okay.
But the concern is, and I understand the concern. The concern is that it opens the door because it puts no limitations on the legislature for how to spend this money, or really no restrictions on them for, if you're going to use the money to bring down the debt of the state of Illinois, which is great.
Right.
So that's their concern. One of their concerns is that there aren't any restrictions on the state.
But I guess my question, and I guess, are there any restrictions now? Like, if the amendment doesn't pass, it's not as if the state has these restrictions in place as to how they can spend their monies.
And if it doesn't pass, what's going to happen is everybody's taxes going to probably go up, except it will go up at that same flat rate.
So the flat rate could possibly just be increased so that everyone's taxes would go up and not just
everybody's taxes would go up. But it would still be a flat rate, so you still wouldn't have people making more than $400,000.
Right.
Their rate being any higher than everybody else's rate.
So that was an excellent explanation. We really appreciate it. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. But if you're comfortable, can you give the congregation what your personal, opinion on the Fair Tax Amendment is?
Well, first, let me say this. I have skin in this game. I have an Illinois pension from the judge's retirement. And I, like everybody else, don't really want to have to pay any more taxes than I have to. But here's the deal. The state is in there's a tremendous debt here that the state of Illinois is in. And something has to be done. And the reality is that we cannot get out of it by simply reducing expenditure. The only way it's going to happen is that not only must expenditures be reduced, there's going to have to be some new money in the game.
Revenue has to be increased also.
There's got to be some new revenue. Now, of course, the state has done things hoping to bring in new revenue. You've got the marijuana.
Right, the cannabis, I was going to say that.
And then they're going to make some more money from that, In the state of Illinois, in Chicago, the mayor, of course, keeps pushing for the casino.
Right, and gambling and sports books.
Chicago got more money. They'd be beholden to send more money to Springfield. But there needs to be some new revenue streams. There's just no way around it, and there are people who say, it's not our fault that the state kicked the can down the road many times,
The state does what a lot of individual families do.
And of course, that has happened. The state has kicked the can down the road a lot. But we are right now where we're at. And so I voted yes on the Fair Tax Amendment.
Okay. Well, Judge Jackson, we appreciate it. And we're going to move on to kind of a federal issue, which is the nomination. She hasn't been confirmed yet, but the nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett for the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, we've heard the names spoken a lot, and we've heard there's a lot of kind of controversy around it. Before we get into the controversy, just can you explain, if someone maybe doesn't know, how is someone selected? You're a judge. How is someone selected for the U.S. Supreme Court?
Well, with federal judges, The senator from the party that is in power, in this case,
The Republicans.
Republicans,
Mhm.
even though Dick Durbin has more seniority, we got two, as a matter of fact, we have two Democratic senators here. But generally, the senator from the party that's in power makes a recommendation to the president.
Okay.
And then the president acts on that recommendation. What has been happening in the Trump administration, there is what is their name? There's a group, and sometimes I'm having brain shut down, but their name will come to me before
I'm
this.
sure, yeah, I'm sure it will.
That has made they had a list.
Okay.
And on day one, they gave the president the list.
Hmm.
You know, and these are the people who we want to see become judges. These are conservative judges. And her name was on that list. I know I have a friend who is a retired appellate court justice, and in inquiring about her, she said, oh, she's very personable. She's just a hardcore right-wing conservative.
Right.
Who is on record in some ways sort of espousing some of her thoughts, and not necessarily legal opinions, but
kind of her personal
about
opinions.
certain issues,
Mhm.
which is why she has been, you know, in my humble opinion, selected, because they expect certain things from her.
So let me ask, so once the senator from kind of the party in power makes the recommendation to the president, and let's say the president accepts that recommendation, is it just a done deal? Is that person now a U.S. Supreme Court justice, or is there any kind of process that has to take place after that?
No, it has to, it has to go through there are formalities that it needs to go through, you know. It goes to the Judiciary Committee, holds a hearing. Senators on the Judiciary Committee get a chance to ask the nominee questions and what have you on various things. And then, you know, there's a vote taken by the Judiciary Committee, and then it goes to the full Senate. And that's whose hands it's in. The House of Representatives has nothing to do with it. The vote takes place in the United States Senate.
Okay.
And it only takes a majority vote. And there you are. You're on.
So I know that this vacancy was, of course, created with the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But I guess my question, Judge Jackson, is, like, we're in the middle of an election, and it seems to me that, this election could go either way. You could either have President Trump, you know, win and stay on another 4 years, or you could have former Vice President Joe Biden win. And no, they're very different. They have very different political opinions. So it seems to me,
Biden would not have recommended an Amy Coney Barrett.
Right. So I guess my question is, does it make sense to have someone pick a Supreme Court justice that will serve for life? If they serve until either they retire or they pass away, with an election literally right around the corner?
Well, let me say this. Excuse me, one second.
No, go ahead.
President Barack Obama nominated Merrick Garland 11 months before his term was to end. The Republicans at the time said it would not be fair to allow President Obama to make a nomination, that should be up to the next president. Now, typically, in the year of the presidential election, around the summertime, that's usually the end of making recommendations.
Okay.
Because they give the next administration coming in the opportunity to pick.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But the Republicans know that they have a chance to shift the balance of the Supreme Court for probably the next 25, 30, or 40 years in doing what is, I'm pretty sure, almost a fait accompli. Instead of it being a 5-4, and when it's a 5-4 split, that means that one judge from the conservative side could possibly vote with the judges in the minority and not get the kind of results that conservatives would want to see.
Like with what happened with the Affordable Care Act.
Correct.
Justice Roberts, who is typically a conservative justice,
voted
he voted
with the minority bloc.
Right. He voted for the act, and
Yeah.
that's why it was enacted. Or part of the reason it was enacted.
Now, if she goes on the bench, it becomes 6-3.
So it'd be a clear majority at that point.
Clear majority at that point.
So one of the things that you've heard a lot, and I've heard, in these debates, the vice presidential debate, and we just had a second presidential debate yesterday, is a concept called packing the court. What exactly is packing the court? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, the Republicans are in the process of doing it right now. They're packing the court. They've been packing the court for a long time. But their concern and perhaps fear is that if the Democrats retake the Senate, that they could change the rule in terms of how many justices sit on the Supreme Court. So,
is there like an absolute limit, or can you have as many?
Right now, the limit is 9.
Right.
Their concern is that the Democrats will change that number from maybe 9 to 12 or 13, which would put them with the majority. So that's their concern, which is why they want Joe Biden, and they've been pummeling him about, tell us how you feel about, if Democrats get in office, whether they will change the rule and allow additional justices to be added to the court.
Right. So just in case, if someone, is not familiar with kind of what the Supreme Court does, the Supreme Court is the high court of the land. They're the highest court
in the land. There is no appeal from a decision by the Supreme Court.
So just to kind of give everyone kind of an understanding, what are some of the rights and big decisions and laws, well, not laws, but some of the big decisions that have kind of set American history, that have been some of the larger decisions made by the U.S. Supreme Court?
Well, the big one for this generation has probably been Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education. Separate, but allegedly equal.
Right, unequal.
Unconstitutional, because they were separate and they were unequal. So Brown versus the Board of Education. Roe versus Wade on the woman's right to abortion. The Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court handed down a rule or a decision that gutted the Voting Rights Act. Up until that decision, before states which had been found in the past to have violated and suppressed the rights of minorities, before they could change rules, they had to take it to the Justice Department and get an okay for that to happen. The court gutted that. And as soon as they did, you saw a flurry of new rules, which are essentially, suppressing and taking a vote away from people, reducing the number of polling places. You've seen on the news people standing in line, for hours and hours. I believe it was in Georgia.
I've definitely seen it like in Texas and
where
Georgia.
11 hours people stood in line.
That's
trying
insane.
to vote.
I literally waited 15 minutes to go. I went right up to Beethoven, and I think I stood in line for 15 minutes and voted.
I didn't have to wait 15 minutes. Shutting down polling places. In Harris County in Texas, it's 4.5 million people. They just got one place.
Wow.
In Harris County where you can go drop off a mail-in ballot. One place.
And all these decisions are kind of governed. They eventually come to the U.S. Supreme Court, who make these big decisions.
And the ruling by the Supreme Court in the voting rights case made all of that possible, requiring once again, state ID. And then what they do is close up all the places in minority neighborhoods where you can get the state ID, and you have to travel maybe hundreds of miles to go try to get a state ID, and then they have very inconsiderate hours and what have you. So
isn't that literally what they did in the Jim Crow South? I mean, poll taxes and reading exams and stuff like that.
All of which gave rise to Lyndon Johnson signing the Voting Rights Act.
Wow. That's something. So going back to this confirmation, you explained that when Barack Obama was in his last year of his presidency, he nominated someone, and because it was in the calendar year where they were going to vote for someone else. 11 months. So within almost a whole year.
And Mr. McConnell refused to call that nomination for a hearing.
Right. Wow.
Never let it get to the floor of the Senate.
So Mitch McConnell is the speaker, or is the kind of the Senate leader of the majority now. Of course, he's not allowing this one to happen, right? I'm sorry, he's not allowing this one, right?
I beg your pardon?
If he said with Barack Obama that he shouldn't be allowed to make a pick within a year of him being elected, having a new election, how is it that he's supporting Donald Trump nominating Barrett less than a month before the election?
Can you spell hypocrisy? Because that's what it comes down to. I mean, it is legal. What they're doing is legal. But is it just? Is it right? Particularly given, and the way they try to excuse it is to say, well, the Republicans are in control of the Senate and the presidency. And so that makes a difference because we control both the Senate and the presidency. Right. Of course, that makes no sense.
So might makes right, it sounds like what they're
absolutely
saying. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They have the power and authority to do it, and they're going to do it. There's no doubt in my mind that woman is going to wind up on
the Supreme Court. So again, if you don't want to give your personal opinion, we're not forcing you to, but if you're comfortable, I guess it sounds like, based on what you're saying, that you're not in agreement that Barrett should be a member of the Supreme Court. If it was up to you.
If it was up to me, no, she would not. And don't get me wrong, and not just because of the timing of it. I read an article while I was, looking at a few things. This woman is the least qualified nominee in the last 30 years. This woman has only been on an appellate court for 3 years. As a matter of fact, Barack Obama nominated a black woman to fill this spot, which is one of those spots that Mitch McConnell let die on the vine, you know, and Amy Coney Barrett is in a spot that Barack Obama had nominated a black female to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. And in so doing, turned the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals into an all-white appeals court.
Wow.
Prior to that time, she was a law professor
at Notre Dame, right?
It's talking about how well qualified she is. Yeah, she was graduated with honors from what some describe as a second-class law school. And then when we talk about that, I mean, she went to Notre Dame, but it's not a Harvard, it's not a Yale, it's not a Princeton, which is where large numbers of the Supreme Court justices have come from. It's not any of those.
Right.
This woman has no trial experience at all. She has never tried a case. She has never argued a case before the appellate court. She has never argued a case before the Supreme Court. Let me find it. Hold on, I know you said, but I wrote this down.
No, take your time. Take your time. This is fascinating.
Because this was just, when you get nominated, of course they ask you to provide documentation. I think that I read that this woman, the documentation that she submitted was about hold on one second.
No, take your time.
I want to say 17,000 documents. Now, that might sound a lot to the uninformed. No, I'm giving her way too much credit. Turned over 1,800 pages of documents. Again, that might sound a whole lot, but just consider this. Chief Justice Roberts, when he got nominated, he turned over 75,000 pages of documents. Justice Kagan, he turned over 170,000 pages of documents. Gorsuch turned over 180,000 pages of documents. Even Kavanaugh turned over 1 million pages of documentation. What that says to you is how shallow her background is. You are on your way to the Supreme Court of the United States, having never tried a case, having never been a trial court lawyer, and only having been on the appellate court for 3 years. And now you're getting ready to be elevated to the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Wow.
Now, there are lots of others, very well qualified Republican women. While I might have been constrained to say I don't like their politics, I would not be able to challenge their credentials. I'd have to say, yeah, they got the credentials. So why do you jump over all of these much better qualified people and pick this one?
You know, it's funny, and just hearing you say that, you could say that with just about everybody Trump's put in his cabinet. I mean, literally every person he's put on.
Let me say, you can say that about almost most of these judges they put on the bench. Trump has appointed 215 or 16 judges, and I think they probably have another 20 or 30 in the pipeline that win, lose, or draw they're going to put on the bench before the end of his term.
Wow.
Trump has put almost a quarter of the federal judges on the bench.
Wow.
Yes. All of them are young people. When I say young, 30s, maybe 40s.
Haven't been practicing law very long.
Great numbers of them have not been practicing very long.
Huh.
But it also means they're going to be in these positions for decades, 25, 30, maybe 40 years. So for them to be talking about packing the court, given what it is that they have done,
wow,
they have packed the court.
Wow.
And they have packed the court with people who are not at all inured or friendly toward concepts like civil rights, criminal justice reform, against a whole lot of governmental regulation.
Right, right.
I suspect, because I hear that Ms. Bryant said that Roe versus Wade is precedent, but not super precedent. And the difference between them is, if you're talking about a case that's super precedent, Brown versus the Board of Education is a super precedent case. Nobody is talking about ever trying to overturn.
Right.
At least I don't think so. Brown versus the Board of Education. Roe versus Wade, there are constant challenges to Roe versus Wade. And while I could conceive of them not overturning the case outright, I can see them slapping so many limitations and conditions on a woman's right to an abortion that it would still be next to impossible to get one, even though they haven't overturned the case.
And that's happened before, not with Roe versus Wade, but I'm saying like with the Affordable Care Act. Obama and Biden got that passed, but then wasn't the individual mandate then overturned, which kind of took the strength out of the ACA?
Right now there's a case on it's there where they're trying to get the whole act ruled unconstitutional and thrown out. So I am tremendously saddened by what I have seen happen to the courts. And what really bothers me is that you tried to sound the alarm 4 years ago and to get people to see that this is what could happen.
Wow.
And now, 4 years later, there's some, who are now concerned and afraid about what is going to happen. Except when I was trying to get you to see that, you see, and make no mistake about it, the Republicans knew what they were getting with Trump, but they also knew something else. They knew that they could get him to do their bidding. They knew that they could get him to put these people on the bench that they wanted to be able to put on the bench. So they were willing to put up with some of his other craziness, because for them, the prize were the courts. We blinked. We took our eyes off of it. We got all hung up on, those people were horrible people, talking about the Clintons, they were responsible for mass incarceration, yada, yada, yada. We took our eye off the prize.
Wow.
The prize should have been the courts.
Wow.
Because whatever other shortcomings that Hillary Clinton may have had,
this wouldn't have happened.
Gorsuch and Kavanaugh would not be on the Supreme Court now.
Right.
And soon to add to that, Barrett.
Right.
Wouldn't be on the court. So,
Judge Jackson, I could talk legal stuff with you literally all day, but I appreciate your willingness to explain and kind of give your opinion. to the congregation. Now, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but can we maybe come back to you if there are other legal issues in the news and ask you to explain them to the congregation again?
Sure you can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Judge Jackson. This was wonderful. Again, my name is Kevin Smith. I'm the Technology Committee Chairman at Bryn Mawr Community Church, and thank you for watching.